to the cloud. And can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. All righty. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to record this for those of you who have who are not on, and I apologize for the people who actually get it on later. My screw up here. It looks like I used a password of someone's name for another event, and so it basically is a different room and a different passcode, which I tried to send out last minute to people to get it corrected, but it's not quite working as planned. The goal today is to go through the one-page business plan workshop. Really quickly, let me give you some context to what I hope to achieve today or be able to help you with. Number one, I want to just make sure that I want to get a real clarity about the group that's on, since it's a smaller group, what you are currently doing, if you currently have a business or an organization that you currently run or you're starting, and so that way I can make sure I tailor this presentation specifically to you. I want it to be interactive, and we'll do some exercises. If for the guys who have already jumped on, in your inbox, Facebook, I sent you a copy of the worksheet that we'll be using today, which is the one-page business plan, as a reference point. But you don't have, because it's so simple, you don't actually have to use that form that I sent you. You can actually just put it on a piece of paper, and you'll see that really quickly. It's extremely effective tool that I'm going to show you how to use, and I think it can be really life-changing for a business, an organization, and an entrepreneur. I want to talk about what a business plan is, and then what the one-page business plan is. I want to talk about why business plans generally are so difficult to write and why people give up or do I would say a shoddy job on creating their own business plan. Because at the end of the day, if we're honest with ourselves, it's a really tedious task, and the one-page business plan actually removes that problem right out of the right out of the consideration set. And then I want to talk about why every business actually needs to have a business plan. Every entrepreneur needs to have one. Every organization, if you're starting a ministry, the same thing. Everybody needs one to be successful. And we're going to talk about why that is extremely important. And then we're going to talk about what what is the difference in the one-page business plan. And we're going to actually start to use that plan. Hopefully we're going to at least get you started on a couple pieces of that plan tonight. And then and then I'll talk about why this plan actually works. And I'll show you some secrets to writing a successful plan that I think you're going to be able, that's going to give you more clarity, can give you more predictability around your business or your organization, whatever you do, and then we'll wrap up. We may do a part 2 to this, depending on how far we get with that, and I'm definitely willing to do that and break it up into parts. Just for everyone who, most of the people on this call I do know, but just to give you a little bit of background on my professional background, I'm currently the president and CEO of Human Fluent, and we specifically do business coaching and coaching for C-suite executives. And most of the cases, these are people who are newly appointed to the role of a CEO or chief human resource officer or chief technology officer, maybe a chief marketing officer. Is the primarily focus that we do. I also serve on the advisory board for a company called Evergreen Trading, and we buy impaired assets like jets, for example, from companies and we take those assets that they can't get fair market value for, and we will buy them in exchange for them to buy media, television and radio, and internet advertising. And then I'm also on the board of member of Convoy of Hope. And Convoy of Hope is a group that was birthed out of the Assembly of God in Springfield, Missouri. And we provide disaster relief and food relief to people primarily throughout the U.S. And right now we're probably giving roughly about $70-80 million worth of food per year. My professional background, just to give you context, I've had a varied background. I'm a guy that my core experience is in human resources. However, I've done things way outside of that. I didn't start in HR. I started in operations on the business side and then went to HR. I was the former executive vice president and general manager of international stores for Radio Shack. I also served as the general manager and president of Radio Shack Mexico. I was the former executive vice president of human resources for Kohl's department stores for 9 years. I worked there for 19. Former chairman of Faith to Act Project, and Faith to Act Project provided actually business and entrepreneurial education for women in hard places, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and we specifically taught them how to launch businesses. So we had women who started henna businesses and those kinds of things. And it was you learn how to do that particular business function. We'll fund you, but you have to actually then do two things. You have to forward your learning and knowledge to the next person in your village and community, so that it was actually a multiplication effect. And then I actually started that organization. And then I was also a board member for Wheaton Franciscan Hospital Systems, which is based in Illinois and operated hospitals in Illinois and Wisconsin. So I only say that to you that, I'm not a guy who's actually trying to tell you, give you some business insight without having business experience. And so it's not about bragging, but it's just to give context, because I think that's quite important for people. I think sometimes we are listening to people who actually have never been there, never done it. And I get it. You don't have to have done it to teach it, but I can certainly, there's some nuances that I think I can, and some different insight that I can bring to the table. And I'm confident about that. So I wanted to share that. I would like for you guys to unmute your phone and tell me, just for this recording, tell me your name and tell me the type of business or organization that that you have for your business. If you have one already, if you don't, that's fine. But more importantly, who will your business serve, or does it serve in the future? And we're going to narrow in on that tonight, hopefully, if you aren't clear about that. And then more, and probably the most important of everything that gets accomplished in the next 2 minutes, 5 minutes, as you guys tell me about yourselves, is that you would be able to tell me what you expect to learn today. So I'm going to ask you to unmute your phone, and we'll go from there. Maybe Brian, you want to start?
Sure. So my name is Dave. No, I'm just joking. My name's Brian. Brian Serosa. I'm out here in Columbus, Ohio. Honestly, so there's a number of things that I'm kind of in between. So we do an online ministry as well as a ministry here in our state here, out of our home. And we're calling it the Gospel Transformation Ministries. But the other thing that we're actually kind of toying around with the idea is life coaching.
Great.
And so that's another aspect or another avenue that I'm kind of considering, because I love just talking into people's lives. I love being able to help influence. I know that I'm an influencer as it is. And I, according to the Spirit of God, I'm an encourager by nature. And so I just want to be able to help people in that regard. So the question is, who does my business or organization serve? So currently it serves Christians. Currently my My ministry is serving Christians. And it's the idea is how to walk out this Christian life in the kingdom of God according to the oneness of the likeness of God. In other words, you should be able to say, if you see me, you've seen the Father. You should be able to say that I'm I'm a living epistle known and read among men. And that's all because you're founded on the reality that you are one with the image of God, which means you are who God says you are, simply put. Life coaching, on the other hand, again, that's something that we're kind of exploring. So I'm not exactly sure who that's going to serve. I'd imagine it's going to serve a broader range of individuals. And then what do I expect to learn today? Whatever Telvin wants to teach me. Telvin and I have been friends for a while now, and I respect this man, and I value his input, and so I'm looking forward to just and what really caught my eye is bringing it simple, making it simple. So this business plan or ministry plan or what have you, that's what I'm looking for.
That's awesome. Yeah, because simplicity, it means you'll use it. First, you'll do it, and then more importantly, you'll use it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Katura?
Yes, sir. All right. So my name is Katsura, as Telvin have said, and the business I'm here actually representing Zane and myself. We actually have a business that serves the body of Christ called Zane K. Katura International Institute of Pneumatology. So basically, our clientele, our niche is the non-denominational Christian body, and similar to what Brian Sursa had mentioned, we actually also offer coaching, and we branch off into many different areas. So what I expect to learn today, I signed up for the class to understand what a business plan is and how to implement it. What I also look forward to understanding is, sorry about that, I forgot to mute my phone. What I also want to understand about it is basically everything that Telvin has to share concerning business, because I jumped into this without having too much knowledge in the business arena. Most of my studies were not within that, but within like aviation, the airline industry, and so I kind of
Okay.
made a big turn when I came into the understanding of Christ and so on. So yeah, I'm a newbie when it comes to running business.
Awesome. I understand. All right. And did you have a business before?
Yeah, actually, I before opening the institute, was running a small business as well called New Wine Creations Boutique, and so yeah, that is still like a part-time venture.
Okay, got it.
This is more full-time.
Awesome. Okay. So I want to talk about what is a business plan, and I think this is probably the most simplistic definition of a business plan, right? Is that it's a summary of your operational and your financial objectives, a place where you can have detailed plans of strategies that you plan on taking to make your business work and achieve the financial goals that you have, the number of people you kind of want to serve. And most of the time, most people create, at least in the United States, people are creating business plans because they want to be able to get a small business loan, or they're trying to take it to a bank. And so they also have to have detailed budget plans and numbers. But most people who create a business plan like that I just described never ever use it again once they actually have it done. And a lot of times those are done for like I said, they're done for a bank or for a small business loan. And the things that, unfortunately, the things that they're requiring and asking you to have aren't necessarily the things that are fluid enough and detailed enough for you to actually implement and execute against business objectives. So the reason that I picked the one-page business plan, it's because it's something that you'll actually use. And can you guys see the screen, by the way?
Yeah, you good.
Good. So the ability to take a complex process and make it very simple and useful. If you have people, and most of us, we'll learn as we start to do this work, start to run a business, run a ministry, and is that you got to add other people in order to do this. No one can do this alone. There's not, I mean, it's an entrepreneur who actually is out there on their own will fail. A business person who is out there who has no support and resources will fail. A person who's running a ministry all by themselves, they will fail. But what you can do with the one-page business plan is it's a way for you to focus people on the things that matter most. And I tell people, give people who are working with you a copy of the plan so that they know where you're going. And it's kind of like, write the vision, make it plain so those who see it can run. And they can't run if they don't see it. And also, it helps you to think about, are you spending money or asking people to work on things that are about your long-term objectives, or they're about the things that are right now, like, okay, I need to do this right now, or a new opportunity comes up. And I personal example for myself that when I first started my business as an executive coach, I I got people who called me to do certain things that quite honestly were really off my mission. They had nothing to do with what I wanted to create, but they would pay me money, or it was shiny. It was interesting. I'd be like, well, I'd like to do that someday, but it wasn't my thing that I originally started out to do. And so one of the things, the one-page business plan, we'll show you examples of this, really will allow you to not have what kills almost every organization is mission creep. It kills churches, it kills ministries, it kills businesses, it kills entrepreneurs, and it's the idea of mission creep. It's also, the one-page business plan is really versatile, so you could actually give the same template to somebody else who's working with you and say, all right, you're responsible for this function here in our organization or business. And so what I want you to do is I want you to write your own plan that cascades from the master plan that I create. The next thing it does is it drives consistency, and it's easy for you to update. So if you had a really big page that's multiple pages, then you got to go update it, and then it's not a useful tool that you can use to tell you if you're on track and if you're living true to what you do. What shouldn't be changing is your mission and vision for what you want to create, which we're going to talk about in a bit. But what you may change is the approach or who you serve, because the one thing that's really clear to me is that we can have a lot of ideas that we can put on a piece of paper, but those ideas have to be, they actually face the daylight, and is what I say. But what I mean is they face what the market is willing to buy. And I can tell you, both churches and ministries and businesses, you can have the right idea, but you can be at the wrong time, or you can be offering it to the wrong people. And so you do need a plan that you can go back to, and it reflects your latest thinking as well as your latest knowledge as you've gone out and tried to execute what your vision is. So the methodology here on the one plan, and we're going to get a chance to do some exercises that are going to let you to do this tonight. And by the way, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just directional because we're learning. Basically, we're going to create multiple drafts here. But number one is that, that we want to recreate something that actually has keywords, that's actionable for you, those short phrases that trigger you, that create some passion and inspire you. We want to write things in there that are important, to focus you on things that are important to your success. There are 5 elements that we're going to spend time on, and this is why it's so easy. It's vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and plans. And all of them, and this is important to remember, all of the elements of this plan have equal value. The mission is as important as the objectives. The mission is as important as the plans. And so we'll talk about that in a moment, with each of them and how they're different, because I will tell you, in my 25 plus years of experience, I can tell you that most people confuse vision and mission. And we're going to hopefully clear that up today. And I'm lucky that I get to actually do this practice with each of you, because there's it looks like there's like 2 of you on the phone. And I heard TD Jakes at a ministers and leadership conference says that he's gone in and he gives his all when he has to talk, because he's gone in a phone in places and 2 people showed up. And he gives the same amount of value with the 2 that he would give to 10,000. So that hopefully is my goal today, to give you as much as possible, to actually help you even create, at least some good drafts, so that you can actually do this on your own later. And you can do it multiple times, and you can teach it to other people. So the other key here that I just want to say, and I know this is kind of a hard rule for me, is that you limit the plan to 1 page. If you got more stuff on your plan than 1 page, it's not executable. You can't implement it. And this is the same for a very large multi-billion-dollar organization as it is for the independent small person just starting out. There's no difference. My philosophy is that everybody needs to have a plan. I even think one-on-one people who are in corporate America, if they're working for a company, they should actually have their own 1-page business plan for their own personal business function. It's also, for me, it's essential to have a plan in writing that you can refer to regularly. And my belief is that you regularly refer to it weekly, to make sure that you are moving down the path that you set out to and say you want. And the other part is that you don't use business jargon. This is not a place where you write sophisticated stuff and use business language and all that other stuff. You need to write words that mean something to you, that again inspire you, and you get it. And I beat the whole idea of 1 page is enough in the ground. I think the thing here that, again, that's really important is that it's just got to be something. If you have a business plan, it's got to be a living, breathing document that you're referring to almost weekly. And that way your plans will become more effective. I mean, you'll actually do what you said you're going to do. And most of us can't get it done because we don't actually have a written plan that we've looked at. It has things that inspire us. We know direction where we're going. And even if it doesn't work out like you want it to work out in the very beginning, it's still, you're going to stick with it because your vision is clear and you believe your mission is worthy. And last part is that when you do this, that your results are more predictable. You're going to be able to tell if you're going to hit something or not. And where a lot of times when we have these big grandiose goals and or we don't put it to paper, we're way down the path before we realize this really isn't working. And this is kind of like, how do you give yourself a report card that you can almost look at every day? If not every day, at least weekly. If you guys check in your inbox, I don't know, can you just verify that you actually did receive this in your Facebook inbox? And those of you who are hearing this
Yeah, I got it.
recording, oh, good. Those of you who are hearing this recording at a later time, if you just send me a DM, a direct message on Facebook, I will actually send you a copy of this one-page plan template. Brian, did you get yours?
I'm checking. You said inbox. You mean like the private messenger?
Private messenger, yeah.
Because I do not see it.
Let's make sure you have it.
Yeah, I don't see it.
All right, let's just make sure you get one. We're gonna escape this for just a second. All right, let's go to, all right, Brian. Hopefully you got it.
There it is. I got it.
All righty. Got it. All right. So there are 5 parts of the plan. As I said earlier, there's vision, mission, objectives. Can you guys see my screen still?
Yeah,
Vision,
you did.
mission,
Yeah.
vision, mission, objectives, strategies, and action plans. So, well, let's talk about what vision is, because that's going to be really helpful. It's going to be really important that we start this off, and it really, we get this right. It actually really helps us with everything else that we're doing. So the first question that I always ask people is, what are we building? Like, what is this? Like, what are we trying to create? But think big picture. And what will this business look like 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And don't be afraid to dream. Don't be afraid to be concrete. Because if we actually, a lot of times what I see people do is they're really shy about it, or they're a little timid to say, I'm going to be doing this, this, and that. And I'm going to give you what that this and that means in just a second. But really dream a little bit, push yourself, because we're talking about a vision, right? And a vision is something that's generally far off, right? So what type of business or organization is this? And we'll talk about that in a second. Who do you serve? And I find this to be probably no different in business than it is in not-for-profit organizations or ministries and churches, the confusion about who we serve. And most people will say, well, everybody can use my product, or my ministry is for everyone. And the truth is, that's just not true. um, that's not, because if you don't have a specific person or group of people that you serve and you're talking to, then the people who you want to serve will not be listening. And what we call that, and from a marketing perspective, is we call that positioning. So the example that I would use for to give for most people is to think about McDonald's. I know everyone says, a lot of people says, well, everybody goes to McDonald's. Well, the truth is not everyone in the fast food segment goes to McDonald's, and McDonald's has an ideal customer, but and they market to a different customer than Wendy's does, and Burger King speaks to a different audience than McDonald's, and let's just say Popeye's Chicken is speaking to a different audience than, right? We know this, than the who shops at Chick-fil-A. So we got to get real clear about who we serve. And you can think about it in ministries. There are ministries that can get to, that can speak to millennial populations really well, because millennials are dealing with a different issues than the boomer generation, and singles have a different issues than married couples, and married couples without children have different issues than people with children. And if we're not speaking to their problems, right, the things that they're facing in life, they might find your information, your service, your product interesting, but you're going to really have a hard time in a very noisy marketplace to be able to speak to them and dial in if you don't position yourself and say, this is who I serve. And so we'll tighten that up a little bit later. I think it's really important for people to speak about geographic scope. Um, the idea that you can do this, you can speak to everyone in the world, or everybody in your state and your country. I just don't believe most of us have the economic resources in order to effectively do that. And so we're talking about putting together a plan that's no nonsense, and we actually can get things done, and we can achieve objectives. Once you grow and build a footprint in one area with one group of people and one geography, you certainly can expand your business or your organization to a broader set of people. But if you don't start very specific, very narrow, you don't know who to talk to, which leads to who are your target customers. And then what are the products and the services that you're going to offer? When you get clear about what markets you serve, what geography you serve, what your target customers are, you're going to get a lot better at figuring out what my product should be, what the services I should offer, what my pricing ought to be. I see way too many people go create products and services that don't match, that cost a price that their customer can afford, or they're going after customers and lowballing themselves and selling the product for far less than what the product is worth, leaving money on the table. And then high-end clients actually get scared when it's a low price, because they're wondering if the value is going to be there and if it's going to be a waste of their time or not. And then the last section is, what sales goals are we trying to achieve? So I created a sample vision. What I'm going to get you to do is create your own vision today, and it can be a mock for a business idea that you have. But the sample vision here that I created was one. This is not my business. This is just one I made up. Within the next 3 years, grow my elite mindset coaching into a $250,000 Northeast regional coaching firm specializing in helping recently divorced single parent clients overcome limited beliefs that hinder their life goals. Now, that is not an elevator pitch. This is your. So what I'm saying first, the key is I'm addressing the time frame. Remember, I said earlier, we're looking at what am I building? What does this business look like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now? Then I'm saying, what is this that I'm building? Well, I'm building an elite mindset coaching firm. And that's the name of my firm, Elite Mindset Coaching. And I want to have something quantifiable, not necessarily only qualitative. So quantifiable, $250,000 in revenue at the end of 3 years. I'm going to focus my geography to the Northeast region. Let's just say I live in the Northeast. So I know that customer. I know how to speak to them. I'm not trying to speak to everybody in the United States, for example, because what's important, the language, the lexicon that I'm going to use in the Northeast is going to be different than I'm going to use in the South. For example, in the South, I can speak where I live in the Southwest region United States. I can speak very ecumenical. I can speak really a lot of spiritual Christianese because everybody in Texas goes to church, and they will they will resonate with the idea based. So those words could be important. But if I was on the West Coast, I might couldn't use those same words to attract the audience. So because I'm thinking about marketing here. I'm not self-focused. I'm about how can I serve you, customer, target audience? How can I serve you? Well, in order to serve you, I have to use language that you get that resonates with you. So I'm saying in this case, in the sample vision statement, is that I'm really saying to myself, I'm looking at the Northeast region. I'm telling you what kind of organization I am. I'm specializing, and what do I do? How do I serve these people? I'm specializing in recently divorced single parents. Now, why did I actually say recently single divorced? Well, I'm actually thinking strategically here. I'm saying I'm not going to try to help every parent. I'm saying maybe the people, and you'll see here that clients overcome limited beliefs. Well, I'm saying that the divorced parent may have more limited beliefs than the others because sometimes divorced people actually start to have self-doubt. Like, I failed at a marriage, I failed at a relationship, so this means that, and they make all these connections to that situation that are not true and have nothing to do with their main thing. And I'm using that as an example, right? So, but what's also, I'm being strategic here and saying divorced single parents are a trigger. It's a trigger event that's easy for me to identify and my customer to identify, so that I know who I'm speaking to and who I'm serving. But the deeper issue here is I know it makes it easier for me to find who I want to sell to, because at I'm going to be looking on social media. I'm going to be looking at Facebook groups. I'm going to be looking for everything that's figuring out where the single parents hang out, where the divorced people with kids hang out, right? And I'm looking for that. Now, I can even get further granular and even more strategic in my business. I could actually start to go to the courthouse and look for everybody who's filed for divorce, because it should be in the public records. And I can start to trigger and email those people or find those people on social media and send them information about my service and what I do, give them a free online coaching session so that I can qualify them to see if they're going to be a good customer for me or not. But my goal is to help people specifically with overcoming limited beliefs. If they have issues, relationship issues with their spouse, then that's not my space. If they're having issues with managing their, um, you know, being managing their children, okay, that's not my space. I'm gonna be focused on overcoming beliefs and all about how do we get your mindset right so that you can address all those things. But I'm going to stay specifically in my lane. But now you can see in that context what I'm trying to build. And that's how you start a mission statement for the one-page business plan. And then what we see when we get to doing mission and start talking about objectives and strategies and plans, you'll see we'll always go back to this vision statement. And I'm telling you all of that to say this. When I write my plans down, I just gave you a couple of my strategies. Like one of my strategies is I'm going to start to go and sign up and be connected to all of the Facebook groups that are about single parents, divorced, and I'm probably going to go look at people who, there's a group I know right now that's focused on problems in their marriage, right? And I'm looking in those audiences because those are my prospects. I'm learning their pain points. There is no reason for me to come to the coaching, for example, this coaching business without understanding their types of problems versus me telling them, well, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I solve your problem, because they don't really care. What they really want to know is if you're going to eliminate their pain, right? But I got to be in those groups to know what their pain is, and I got to know where they hang out. And then I can create the language in my marketing and in my phone conversations that address their pain and their problems. Does that make sense, guys? So I'm going to stop there for a moment.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now I'm understanding some of the mistakes that I made in my in the business I was operating before, especially with respect to especially what division has here. Having a time frame, identifying a specific niche, understanding each the niche's jargon, like how they communicate, their language, everything is how to actually pursue the niche. This is really, really helpful so far. My pen is going crazy here taking notes.
We're going to you can listen to it later.
Okay, great.
Hi, you all hearing me?
Yes.
Hey, Telvin.
Yes.
I actually have to agree with what Kitchener just said, Kelly just said. Like one of the things that you identified here was becoming, as you put it, granular with your niche.
Yes.
Identifying the region and matching the lingo of your marketing to that region, so that the persons that you're marketing to can relate to what you're doing. And one of the things that you pointed out here that is also very helpful is identifying what exactly are the pain points, because that literally opens up a different zone of your marketing, because you're not just trying to, in this case, you're not just trying to show, well, this is what I do, but you're actually identifying this is what I do, or this is how what I do can ease your pain, or give you peace.
Yes.
So that in particular stands out to me.
And one of the things that's interesting, Zane, is that one of the things that in a marketing course that I took is that they said most people are making their decisions by actually either avoiding pain or trying to get out of pain.
Right.
And those are the only other, it is never need based.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So I may need it, but I don't always buy what I need. I buy what's going to get me out of pain or help me avoid pain.
That literally shifts everything there, no, Telvin, because I mean, there are a lot of well, when I say marketing, even local marketing courses and marketing, let's say, coaches locally that actually narrowing on finding out what people need. But what you're saying here makes a ton of sense because as you're rightfully saying, even though they may need it, it doesn't really mean that they are going to um, satisfy their need because people usually go for either what satisfies their, well, in want of a better word, what satisfies their lust.
Right. Yes. Right. Right.
What you're saying there actually shifts that for me.
Yes.
It shifts it totally.
Because if you think about it, and this is funny for me, is if you think about it on a commercial, it is almost nothing on a commercial that you actually need.
That is true. That is true. It appeals to the senses that you just like to satisfy like a vice.
Right.
It makes sense. This makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
So when you take it to the further step of coaching, I am interested in investing in coaching because you can take me from point A to B faster than I could take myself. Number one.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's why we're here right now.
Right? Right?
Wow. Okay. All right. Nice.
And so my A is a point of pain. My B is relief. My A may be I see myself heading into pain. And most cases, people are already experiencing that pain. They just haven't admitted it yet. But your conversation, your messaging says, oh, I'm already in this place. So I'm trying to get you from, and so if I'm going to talk to you, if you can give me the roadmap to get me from A to B faster than I can get there on myself without having to do the research and the homework to figure out how to do it. Because what I've also learned is that most people, I really do believe this, most people are 3 to 4 books away from being able to help someone get from A to B. Like if you got 3 to 4 books on your topic and you read those books and you summarized those books and you actually extracted the principles from that book that made sense to you, right? That you go, this resonates with me because I'm a firm believer in this. Even if it's not 100% right, but you're directionally right, you'll make an impact.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right? So that's why most people are 3, but here's the thing. The client generally isn't going to do the homework that you're going to do to read the 3 or 4 books. They're not going to extract the principles. They're not going to think through it because they're in so much pain and they're in that period of chaos that they don't have the ability to do it. And then the second thing is they need accountability along that way, along the journey from A to B.
You know, this has me questioning, you know, how is it possible that that we overlook that? Because the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry works on that principle. People don't buy what is good for them, what their body need. They buy into what actually those industries tell them will eliminate their pain.
Yes, but it, yeah, and it's, yeah, and I think it's consistent and many service offerings and products.
Yeah. That this right there is a game changer. That just understanding that little thing there you just mentioned there.
Brian,
relief. Awesome.
Brian, do you have anything?
No, it's good. I'm following along.
Okay.
I got what you said. The issue for me is I'm so versatile that to find my narrow way is where I struggle, because I can, one of the things about my life is I adapt, and so that's where I kind of get a little issue, because it's like, okay, well, I have so many avenues that I can address something or address multiple things, that's my pain point.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's how I look at that.
Yeah.
One, and that's why I'm glad we have a small group, because we can really get down to real practical things, and people on the phone can hear, or people who hear the recording can actually, which I wouldn't be able to do in a large group. But here's the thing. Think about the one, and I hear you can do multiple things, because most of us can, but I would say you need to pick the one thing that I think you would enjoy doing, that also, number two, people will give you permission to sell them. And this is the disconnect, in my personal opinion, has something I had to learn in my own being an entrepreneur, as well as what I've seen in businesses that large businesses that I've been part of, is go out and be in a business that you have the resources to do, but the customer won't give you permission to do it. And I'm going to give you a business example, and this is just not for you, this is for everyone, because I think all of us struggle. Like, I can tell you, when I first started out, I was like, I'm not really sure what this is going to be. And then I got to land on something, because if I don't land on anything, and I'll back up. My grandmother said this to me. I just kept hearing it over and over. She was like, boy, you can't catch two rabbits at once. You can only catch one. And when I was at Kohl's, at this point, we were in all 50 states. We were doing $14 billion a year in revenue. We had an advertising budget that was in the $1 billion range. We could talk to anyone. We had almost everybody's email, phone number. We could tap into everyone we wanted to. So getting to you was not a problem, which is what most marketers, most business owners have a problem, is how do you get the lead? Not necessarily what you can sell them. It's like, how do I get to you and convince you to buy something from me? Well, we had the reach. We started a business because our customer is primarily female. We said, we're going to get in the beauty cosmetic business, and we're going to be a game changer in that business. They worked on that for 4 years while I was there. I was there 19 years. For the last 4 years I was there, and never actually made it work. And two years after I left, they got out of it. And here's the reason. The customer says, I trust you. And by the way, we had great products. We even partnered with Estee Lauder, who is the #1 brand, but we actually called it our own, I had our own names on the product. We could never convince Susie to actually buy her mascara, her eyeliner, her lipstick from us. She would rather, and and even in focus groups, she would say, I trust you. Listen, I spend $2,000 a year with you, but you're not going to be giving me my makeup. I'm not buying my makeup. In fact, she would rather go buy it, not at a department store. She'd rather go buy it actually at CVS before she'd buy it from us. And it taught me a lesson in the whole idea that you got to think about what you can monetize, not necessarily what you can do. And so maybe that'll help you. Not saying that that's your issue, but it's something to think about, is who will give you, will enough people give you permission to sell them that, to hit that revenue goal that you have. So let's just say, if I'm this person who's saying, within the next 3 years, grow my elite mindset coaching business to $250,000 a year. Well, to divorce single parents, well, here's the thing. I'm a divorced single parent. So it's not a business that I'm going to go after, but I believe I have credibility because I've now done it for 5 years, and I know some of the issues. I don't know all the issues because I only know it from a male perspective, which may mean as I further go down my business path, I might better be able to speak to men than I can speak to women. Women may not hear me as much as men. And at the end of the day, and I'm going to say this in a crass way, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm in a business. So I'm looking for people who are going to be willing to let me serve them, but they're actually going to give me some money for my services. And can I get enough to get $250,000? If I can't monetize it to that number, I'm not interested because it's not worth my time. So does that make any sense for everyone?
Yes,
Sure.
it does. Makes sense.
My own personal example, when I first started out, and I'm like into this 5th year now, sixth year on my own, I'm further refining my business. I would coach C-suite executives, whoever could pay my fee. Literally, whoever could pay my fee. And but I know in order to scale my business and to get beyond my first 4 or 5 number, I have to position myself even tighter. And the way my business, and it doesn't say it today, but I was working with someone today on this. I came to the conclusion that in my core business, I need to say I work with executives, newly appointed CEOs, C-suite executives in tech firms, because I work primarily with tech firms today, but I need to get narrower and say I'm only working with newly appointed CEOs or newly appointed C-suite leaders. Why? Because again, there's a trigger point. The trigger point is LinkedIn is going to tell me every time somebody gets appointed to a new job, LinkedIn's going to tell me they got appointed to a new job. I can just go and see the new titles. So it's a trigger point. So I know I can easily market to people. And what I'm trying to, this is going to sound really crass because I don't know a better way to say this, but I'm trying to figure out, I'm in business. So I need to figure out what's the quickest way to get their money, right? And add value. But I can't get their money if I don't actually really, really narrow in. And so for me, it's now going, you're newly appointed executive in this company, and I'm going to teach you in 180 days how to be able to make a strategic impact in your department and in your business in 180 days and feel more confident and competent quicker than you'd be able to get there on your own. That's a message that's so clear to a certain audience versus me saying, well, I can help the CEO over here and I can help the CEO, even though if you go to my website, I got testimonials of all these people and all these different levels that I've helped with various different things. But honestly, Joe Schmo, Freddie Smith, Susie Smith, they could look at that, go to that site and go, Telvin isn't talking to me. Telvin's not talking about my problem. I see Telvin help CEOs, but he's helping a CEO who's been around for 10 years. He's helping a CEO for 5 years. He's not talking to me. Maybe Telvin is too advanced for me. And that's stuff that I've run into. So I need to back it down and go, this is really who I'm serving. My guess is that I can probably 10x my business from doing that. And when I say 10x, I mean I can add a 0 on the back end by actually just repositioning myself. And that's one of the things I said earlier about having a one-page business plan. You need something that's really quick, that you can change everything on your new thinking, and as you advance and you go out in the marketplace and the marketplace tells you what they'll buy and how they'll buy it from you, you can actually adjust. Does that help everyone? My example of my own crazy?
Yeah.
Yes, it does indeed.
All right. So, I sent most of you, and then Zane, I'll send you a copy of it too right now. I'll send you the one page sheet that we're working from, and I'm going to ask you to actually just do an example vision statement for yourself right now. We'll take about let's say 10 minutes to do that, and I'll pop back on around about 5 to 7 minutes just to make sure that you guys, see if you guys are doing okay. And Zane, I'll send one to your inbox right now on Facebook.
Okay, no problem.
So does everybody understand the assignment? You're going to write your own sample vision statement, and using this methodology that I just showed you. Is it easier for me to show you these bullets, or is it for me to show you the example to leave on the screen?
Keep the I like, I was gonna ask for the example you use, but this has more things to like kind of go through. So I think this is good for me.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, this is also good for me.
Yeah, this
All
is
right.
good. This is good.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Then I'll send it to you, and I'm sending it to you right now.
All right. On Facebook inbox, you said, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
was trying to 6.
Hey Taz.
Hey, Ted. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? We're currently just writing out vision statements right now. We're on a little break. Um,
Oh, I
but
wasn't sure.
no, we're good. We'll be if you are you driving?
I am.
No problem. I'm just gonna mute you. But we'll be back on in probably 3 minutes.
Okay.
How are we doing, guys?
I'm still working on it.
Okay.
I got a question. What would you say
Yeah.
the difference is between what are you building and what type of business or organization is this?
I think I think there can be the same.
All right, thanks.
All righty. Let's go with what you got. You guys there?
Yes, right here.
All right, let's go with what you got. Who wants to go
Okay.
first?
All right, so I'm not true. This actually was like picking at my at my thoughts here because it's not something I had assessed before.
Uh-huh.
All right, so initially I mentioned that one of the businesses that I'm working from is the St. Kikatura International Institute of Pneumatology, right? Just
Uh-huh.
one second. Yeah, sorry about that. And so one of the departments that the institute, or one of the branches of the institute, sorry about that. I was just trying to get my kids out. One of the branches of the institute is to do getaway coaching. Well, getaways, as a matter of fact. So, under the getaways, I'm going to go with the sample vision that you have and basically
Mhm.
go with what's the information that I have so far here.
Okay.
So, within the next year, because I see you have 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, right?
Yes.
I was kind of like taking my time and doing each year.
That makes sense.
So within the first year, to grow the Zinke Ketura International Authors and Master Coaching into a, now it's in my currency, which is $403,200 a year revenue. That's in TT dollars. Um, the type of business organization this is one that caters for the Christian community or like-minded believers. And the markets that we serve, like you read the geographic. When you said market that we serve, was that under geographic scope, or was that just general?
It's general.
Okay, so it'll be like-minded believers,
Yeah.
and the geographic scope will be those within the U.S. and the U.K. outside of the Caribbean region.
That makes sense.
All right, our target customers would be couples and families. Now, I was thinking really hard on how to zoom in on that. I haven't found the answers yet.
Okay. Yeah.
And the key products and services would be selling travel getaways where families can, or like-minded believers can experience vacations with other like-minded believers within the Caribbean region.
Makes sense.
So what are the goals that we're striving for? That one I couldn't put my finger on as yet.
Okay. So what's the outcome for the customer?
Um,
I think you said it, but I just want to make sure I heard it right.
yeah, I'm just looking through my notes. Sorry. So the outcome is basically to create a safe atmosphere where families, like-minded believers, enjoy vacation without having the hassle of planning one, without
Uh-huh.
having to go through all of the um, intricate details of planning a tour and so on.
That makes sense. So here are a couple of things so I love it. I think it's great. So here's the things I would do with it. Just that these are thoughts for you to ruminate on. So the couple things is this. One is think about who you're in your case you're selling to families. So in the family there is a specific buyer generally. So you want to think about who you need to talk to, right? Who really is your customer? Is your customer mom because she has to plan the vacation and she wants somewhere safe and fun for her kids? Or is it dad? Because there's a specific buyer when it comes to vacation and family. And I don't know the answer, but I'm assuming it's mom, right? And so what problem are you solving for her that you can, that um you can further drill down into. So when you say it's a mom, when you say, if we just assume that it's mom, what are her issues?
Okay, gotcha. Wow, this is really helpful. Thank you. All right. Okay, so I'm taking note of that. Did you want me to answer that one time?
Yes, one is fine. Because I think if you get it tight on one, you can
Mhm.
get three, number 2 and 3 better.
Oh, okay.
Right? So if your year one is clear about who you're serving, and because I think I heard you say Christian families, and I
Mhm.
hear you, but I'm saying I think it's too broad in 2020.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
I'm like, you got to get down to her or him, and I don't know which one. And I would even further suggest that you are looking for people who love the Caribbean. They love the islands. They want whatever the Caribbean specifically offers.
Okay, gotcha.
Different than another vacation set, right? So you want, and I'm going to use this word that very few people use, but you want to identify brand lovers,
Brand lovers. Okay.
right? And
Perfect.
so your brand, whatever it's called, right, is it is all about the whoever that buyer is with problems, because she wants to create a great environment for her kids and her family, something for her to do, something for her husband to do, something for the kids to do, and it's aligned with their value systems of being a Christian.
Okay. All right. So, I'm gonna go with what you were mentioning concerning starting small into one particular niche and then
Uh-huh.
extending to other niches as you grow. So to
Yes.
start with, I would say we'd start with couples, because that goes in line with what we're doing with the um, what Zane will share in his part, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so we'll start off with couples, and in the first year, and I'll leave the 5 year to extend to families to put things in place for the entire family and so on.
That makes sense.
So we'll start off with the couples, and in identifying the couples, would you say that I have to go to a particular gender as well, or I should
Well, you're like,
specify?
who's so is it now why the couple is coming for a honeymoon, or is a couple coming just for a romantic vacation together? Is it coming? They're coming. Why are they coming?
That's these are questions I actually have to list with Zane concerning.
Yeah, right.
Because yeah, we're partnering on this, so I can.
So, but I'm saying, right, but that's where you need to narrow in, right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you can't. So, because all right, your vision isn't clear. Your vision
Yeah.
is, and I'm not suggest. By the way, this is. I'm just. I have people tell me to do this with me because here's the thing I've learned about coaching.
Mhm.
Coaches need coaches. No,
Right.
seriously, I am so good at telling other people because the reason is in my own business, I am in the grass. Like I am, right? I'm like crawling between all the blades of grass. And when I'm coaching, I'm on the treetop and I can see everything that's going on. I see the entire lawn, right? And so what I'm giving you is the entire lawn view,
Right.
right? So please don't. Yeah, I mean that's why, and you know that's literally that's coaching to me. So what I'm throwing out to you is just for you guys to think about and further cleaning that, making that vision really clear is who, and I can't stress who is the buyer, because even in a couple there is somebody making the decision.
Right. Man, this is really good. This is really helpful, Telvin. Thank you so very much. This is something we would discuss and bring a lot of clarity on. It will better help us market what we're doing.
And that person is trying to achieve something by doing that vacation. They might not even know know what it is, but if you give them the words, then they believe it or not, they think they're the smart ones for coming up with that answer. But it really is you.
Right.
And I've seen it play out year after year in corporate America. That customer goes, I am so smart. And we go, and we're like, yes, you are. But in our head, we went, no, we told you. We told you. We listened to you, and we told you what you said was important. We put it in words you couldn't say.
Yes, yes. I get what you're saying. All right, so
Okay.
all right, so that's definitely something I can't give an answer to as yet. Once we
That'd be great.
an agreement on that.
Do you
That
did you get an idea of now kind of what you're trying to create with the vision?
yes, yes, this
Okay,
is
good.
really, really helpful.
Good. Who else wants to go?
Telvin, I don't want to go, but can you put the example?
Ah,
You put the example back up so I can. I just want to write that down as a model. Thanks.
and Brian, I'm gonna send you this whole deck, so you don't have to write it down.
I know, but it helps me to process.
Oh, no problem. Okay. Anybody else want to go? Well, Zane.
That's what you want to know, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So what I have actually is specific to the relationship pneumatology coaching that I've been given a lot of brainstorming to recently, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I have here is within the next two years, I also use the example as a model here. Within the next 2 years, grow the relationship pneumatology coaching into a $200,000 international online coaching firm, specializing in helping persons, predominantly women, between the ages of 20 to 40 years of age, in contentious relationships or marriages who really want fulfilling relationships, and also single women that want deep connections with their partners, or their potential partners, come into understanding or spiritual understanding of how to mechanically make it happen.
Love it. Love it. And so you probably might have to start with one
Right.
and build a base on that so that you're talking so that because and you know, we basically are really focused on we're very tribal right now. I'm not sure we haven't always been, but I think we're very. It's probably just pulled out really who we really already are, but very tribal. And so, like, you may have to speak that and build a base, and then because I think if you build the base on, if I think, and I don't know, I could be wrong about this, so you could do the research in this, but I think if you built the base on singles wanting to have a good relationship, it's a natural tie to the couples.
Okay. When you mentioned it's not that we are tribal, what and who are you referring to?
So when I say tribal, I mean the buying public, right?
Uh-huh.
The buying public is really, they're looking for their tribe. They're like, these are my people. So
Okay.
right, and it's words that you're using, and they subconsciously don't even know that they're drawn in. So I'll use an example that really near and dear to you guys.
Right.
Adventures in Identity spoke to me because I was a frustrated churchgoer. And I went, oh, wait a minute, I found home. Right? And then I got introduced to you through, because I heard about them. And then I think I heard about them. And then they mentioned, then you had a class. And then I went, oh, he's even further speaking my language.
Okay. So it's pretty much where you feel you belong.
It's where I feel I belong. I found home. And in the coaching space, everyone is saying the right answer right now, and it's proven out to be, is to find your tribe. So if you're the leader of the tribe as a coach, so you're trying to find your tribe, but in order to build your tribe, you have to create tribal language, right?
Yes, that makes sense.
And that tribal language has to resonate with them, and so they go, this is home. I finally found that person who gets me and gets what I'm saying, and now they can help me get to A to B faster than I get there on my own.
One question here
Yes.
with this whole idea of tribe.
Yes.
If we are narrowing it, for example, on single women,
Uh-huh.
would it make more sense and be more um, resonates in the context of tribe to ensure that um, a woman is also part of the coaching session,
Well,
part as a coach actually.
yeah. So I'm going to say this to you. I don't think I would say the answer to that is no, because most of the dating coaches, for example, a dating coach or not dating coach, but relationship coaches that are successful in America, in the US, are men.
Is that so? All right.
Well, there's a distrust from women to women more than likely. I mean, generally, women don't on that issue. Women don't trust each other in that issue the same. They
Right.
also want a man. So they're like, well, man will know.
But that is the logical trend of thought to go there with to go with. But I just actually want to make sure that it's that having a woman there doesn't actually make them feel without having a woman that it doesn't make them feel displaced.
No, and I think a woman would. So when we are talking about those terms of saying giving permission, will they give you permission to sell them something?
Mhm.
I would say I don't. I think women in that context would have a more difficult time selling the idea to selling that product. I'm not sure women will give another woman permission. I'm not saying that it can't be done.
Right.
I just don't think I think it's more difficult to achieve.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
And so that's the case. I think when you talk about when I think about dating, relationship coaching specifically, the other thing that I see happening in that space is I really feel like the buyer and couples are generally women as well. It's not a man.
Well, I mean, even if you look at it logically, most men generally in society, not the minority that actually um, would like to learn, but most men they generally don't actually think that they have a problem.
No,
in
right.
relationships. So that makes sense.
Well, in general, what we see is men's their life will fall completely apart and hit a brick wall before they ask for help.
True that.
So,
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Makes sense.
Brian, you want to share?
Man,
You got this. You got this.
I really don't, but as to answer your question, I really don't want to share, but like I'm gonna push through it anyway. So I was basically going through, each of those questions. What are we building? A ministry. So I didn't actually put it out into a one sentence vision statement. That's what I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
But right now, all right, so check it. So if I have 100,000 true fans, right? That means loyal fans, loyal followers
Yes.
in the ministry, and they each contribute $100 to our ministry a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's 100K.
Okay.
Right?
Right. Uh-huh.
Did I do that math right?
So you said so let me back up. You're saying if you got 100,000 followers.
Yeah, I might not
right?
have. I'm sorry. That's 1,000 followers. Excuse
Oh,
me.
1,000 followers. Uh-huh.
1,000 true followers.
Uh-huh.
That's where my number. Okay, hold on. I did the math wrong. Hold up. So if I got 1,000 followers,
and they each of them gave $100, then that would be your That
that'd
would
be
be your $100,000.
that'd be my 100. That's where I got that. Okay, so
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
divided by 5, divided by 12. So let's say 16, 17 times 12. Man, let's say I'm saying I would like that within the next year
Mm-hmm.
to have to grow the Gospel of Transformation Ministries into 204 followers in our ministry.
So you want to serve you want to serve 200 people.
Even saying that is like intimidating, but
No, within the next year you want to be serving at least 200 people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, let's say 200 people.
And that's the back into your revenue goal, right?
Well, I'm looking at again, if you have a true follower, a true fan of your ministry,
Yes.
they're gonna buy your course, they're gonna buy your books, your CDs, even though you give it all away for free.
So right. So because it's donations.
Well, no, I'm not even saying like even if I was selling something, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
understand what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah,
I'm talking
I
about like
understand.
business wise, like brand wise, right? Marketing brand wise.
I understand.
So if I'm selling Nikes, people are buying, the Air Jordans, you know what I mean? And because they're true fans. And so I can give it away, but they're still going to buy it. They're going to buy my course. They're going to buy the behind the scenes on how I make those Nikes. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. Like if I had, the math says if I have 1,000 true fans, 1,000 true followers, and they each contribute $100, that's $100K.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's $100. That's $100 for over a year. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I guess it's in a year, right? Like 100 times 1,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're saying each person would give $100 in whatever way.
Right. Hold on. Did you say something, hun? You talking to me? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, say that again, Telvin.
So each person in a year would be $100.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I get it. Okay. So you're saying you have 1,000. You have 1,000 followers, right? And then you would back. I just want to make sure. Let me finish this up. Make sure. And then I think if you had 1,000 followers, you're saying if 200 of those people actually were giving you, your goal is to get 200 of them to be committed $100 contributors.
Right. In
the first year.
Yeah, we're just kind of. I mean, this is just. I'm just, dreaming here. I'm not. This is not.
I don't. By the way, I think all you're not. By the way, I think. I don't. I see no reason to actually not be aggressive with your number. I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah. I'm still figuring out, like, because I'm also in the process of working on full support and doing all that. So this actual number seems a little small to me. But
okay, so what are you doing for the people? What are you offering them?
That's where I'm having a little bit of an issue, because like when I dream about what I want to see as a goal for the ministry, right? I see people that are biblically literate, like they understand how to go to the scripture, but I also see them going out and healing the sick, casting out demons, raising the dead, and winning people to the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's generalized. I know that's super generalized. So that's where I'm having an issue right now. As you know, Telvin, I do the devotional, I do the marketplace ministry, and I do the online church.
Mm-hmm.
So,
so my question is, what problem do you solve for me? So you said what you see. So I understand that. So just helping you.
So I guess I'm solving the problem for disillusioned Christians.
Okay.
You understand that, they're disillusioned to the fact that God's word is true and that his power is real. So basically seeing the evidence of God's relationship in their life. I don't know how to communicate it.
You
And
just
then,
said it. It's perfect. So now you just have to you have to get from your audience the words that actually resonate with them, and what does that make them become. So I'm going to use an example that's I think it's a great ministry example, um, that he did not create it with this intention, I believe, at all, but John G. Lake, right,
yeah,
said, I'm going to, he was the one who really created the DHT, the Divine Healing Technician program, right?
right,
So these are people who wanted to see healing in their communities.
right, yeah,
So he trained people, right? And his first audience was not Christians. His first audience were New Age people because they actually understood spirit.
okay, okay,
Um, and so, I, and so I'm not saying so much to I don't want to oversimplify it, but if you can teach me one thing, then you can have permission to teach me other things.
right,
And that would be the recommendation I would go with.
yeah,
Like, and package it and call it something, so that, because the other part that we know now across the board, and this is probably especially, and I should have said this to you too, Zane, is that we know that people at all ages right now want certificates and milestones, and they want certification and recognition that they completed something.
yeah,
So if that's why DHT actually means something. Like, I'm a DHT, right? I went to the DHT because, okay, I really wanted to know, like, okay, I actually know all these principles.
right,
And pretty much, and Carrie Blake will say this, pretty much most people are pulling most of their stuff from the DHT that are focused on, because they've trained so many millions of people around the world.
right,
So if you could pick something that sticky, that's something like that,
yeah,
I think it's a more direct and easier path for you to hit what you're trying to do. And all the other things that you're doing are supplemental to that. So,
right,
if you're not a good, and I'm just using Divine Healing Technician as an example,
sure,
if if you're not a good, if I mean, the healing power will work whether or not you're being a good person or bad person, from my personal experience. What I believe though is your accuracy will be better when you have fundamentals and why it works, and you trust the spirit in you, and you trust yourself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So your other programs, like you're doing the mission, so you're doing the church, you're doing the online church,
yeah,
you're doing the devotional, all those things to me are support tools
right,
for the core thing that you need. Because think about it, if those things were it, you'd already be monetizing it.
say
You,
that one more, say that one more
you
time.
would already be you would already be able to monetize it. You wouldn't need to create anything else. If those were it, those three things are just different. You're offering something a lot of people are offering, but you're offering it in different format than they are,
Mm-hmm,
right? But
right,
what you create is something that's like very unique to a certain people group.
mm-hmm,
And when you say disillusioned Christian, I would say tighten it up to, is it a man or is it a woman? I just did this project for I worked with a Christian minister last week who has many gold records.
yeah,
And we did an exercise they never did before. I said, just let's go into your database and let's figure out who, I don't care who loves you and clicks your likes or whatever. I want to know the people who are writing checks right now. Who are they? Where do they live? What gender they are?
Gotcha.
What words are they talking about? What are their pain problems? Do they single? Are they married? Do they have teenage kids? Can they do they make $40,000? Do they drive a Ford pickup, Nissan Altima? Like, we need to know all of that, because that person is the person you need to double down on. Two things. One, that's who you're talking to right now, and she's voting with her wallet.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's your audience, because my personal belief is your grace follows the grace follows your gift.
Okay.
And so whoever and that's what you can monetize. So that person, whoever that is, and you can go back to now, who's writing you checks, when you make a call to action for something, who's showing up, who's doing it, understand her or him, and I guarantee you there's a trend. It's almost always the same case.
Yeah. So just to answer your question right now, like, I see more women who follow me. But even when you were talking about getting, narrowing it down, like, I would like men, because I'm a man and I think I can relate and as a father and a husband, as the head of the household, I would like to be able to reach the men. But honestly, when you're asking the question, like, who's writing the checks, who's following, who's doing the calls to action, more often than not, I'm seeing women.
Yes. Well, I think there are very few people who have successfully pulled off men's ministry.
Challenge accepted. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. I think it might be a graveyard of those people. I'm just being, right. I don't really know that. I think it's really very difficult. And I think if you just look at church history, it's always been women. Is where they can count, where people have been able to count on. There's a small set of men. The one thing, and I'll just throw this out, there's a group that you should look at. It's called Order of Men.
Okay.
A guy I know, his name is Ryan. I can't think of his last name. Mishler. He's a faith-based guy. He's a Christian guy. He started this thing maybe 2 years ago. He created that organization. He created a Facebook group called Order of Men, and then he created out of that the Iron Council, which is his coaching program.
Gotcha. I like that.
Okay, and the Order of Men, basically, he kept it all very male focused. Everything was about speaking to men who were demotivated, having problems with their marriages, all this stuff. But here's the key. What Ryan figured out was, and by the way, he figured out something that I think is really important, is that the church has become way too feminine.
Okay.
And so he doesn't make, it is not, it's not feminized. It is literally, this weekend, what are you doing that's manly?
Gotcha.
That's how he got his audience, right? And now when they get to the Iron Council, he talks about faith. But in the broader group, he's talking about just how do you be a decent man, a decent boyfriend, a decent husband, a decent father.
Gotcha. Okay.
And how to get your masculinity back, but how to have masculinity in a way that's not sensationalized and nonsense. Like, about you got to be, macho and all that other nonsense. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, and maybe it's 3 years. I'm betting there's 50, 60,000 people in that group. Very engaged. Like a post, and people, and the people are doing he rarely speaks in the group. He lets them do the talking.
Right.
And I think that's an example that it's something I'm trying to learn how to do. But because how to prime the pump so that they're doing it. But here's the thing. He could then take that core, just like you have your other things, and he takes them to the Iron Council. And the Iron Council is about creating small groups of men who create men accountability, who are like, let's figure out how to get your business right, your profession right, your marriage right, your fatherhood right. And that because not everybody wants to go to that place of manhood, but some people want to just kick their tires around it, and that's what they do in Order of Man. And I will send you an invite to the group.
All right. Yeah, one of the big things about me is mindset. Everything is produced from that mindset of, I've got the mind of Christ, the heart of God, and even that course that I was creating was called, something to do with the mind, the mind of Christ, and so. But so the reason I'm saying that is because I wonder though if that has something to do with why the women more so gravitate to what it is that I'm actually producing right now. So I guess that's something that I should be reflecting on.
Yeah. Well, I think, the way I have this point of view, and this is something you got to hear from the Lord on, but from a business, so because I'm a business coach, right? So
Right.
I think about it like this: I am going to let the market tell me what they need, and then I'm going to serve the problem.
Right.
If men don't have a problem, and I mean because you don't have a problem if you don't know you have a problem. If you don't have a problem, then there's nothing for me to sell you on. There's nothing for me to coach you on.
Sure.
So that means, and so for me, I don't want to be the guy selling you a flying car when nobody actually sees that as important. Even though I think my mom told me we'd be driving them by now, so I think it should be out there.
Right.
But I'm trying to be funny. But at the end of the day, I think what I would go back to, if you want to monetize something, you got to go, I'm going to solve a problem that people are talking about.
Right.
They're not talking about it, you probably can't. Ryan's picked an audience to do it, and one of the things I realized about his audience, he's taken the John Maxwell approach, where John built this amazing business, having been a pastor of a very, very large church. And I know the story intimately because I trained for John Maxwell's organization in Ecuador for 3.5 years. I taught leadership for them. Is that he believed in order to get to more people, he needed to use biblical principles and teach them, and then get them to ask where they came from. Versus to go head out and say, this is it. And he felt like, I can attract a broader audience and lead people in if I actually teach the principle. He says, because inevitably whatever happened, he said, I would wind up in a boardroom where there were decision makers, and they would say, where did this come from? He'd go, you don't want to know? And they'd say, yeah, I do want to know. And he'd say, from the Bible. So it's an approach. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I do think what I do is I try to study what's working and what has worked. And I personally, I'm not a big believer in recreating the wheel or thinking that I can beat the system, because I just don't. I think that's just unnecessary energy spent and time wasted.
Gotcha.
So, but I tell you, the exercise you just said that you were thinking about doing, I think you're 100% on, Brian. Who study those women, and what their deal is, and if you find that they're married, okay, maybe they're the ones that can eventually lead their husband to if they're married, lead them to a program. But if you can build your credibility with them, and expand your list of them, you'll have the money to market to these men. and create programs to these men. So part of this is also is building enough to live and to build a platform so that you actually have influence in other spaces.
I got you. Yeah, like a gateway.
Definitely.
Got you.
And so that if you use that idea and put to your vision, I think you're gonna find that you could actually get some good traction. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Although we spoke about a lot of things just now. So
well, you'll get the recording so you can listen again.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Cool, bud. All right. So, let me just do a little time check here. All right. So we talked about vision. We talked about writing your vision. We'll get to one more section here. There are 5 sections here with you guys. I think we can get to mission today, and then we can schedule. I'll send out an invite for part 2, and we can knock out the other 3. But if you can get your vision really tight and mission really tight, the work will be really easy for the other 3 parts when we start talking about objectives and we start talking about strategies and actual plans. So why don't we talk about the mission? As I said to you guys before, I think when the people were on earlier, that a lot of times I see people mix mission and vision, and they're 2 different things to me. Vision is this grand picture that I see out there for my business. That's about how I'm going to serve people, how I'm going to be compensated for doing that, who specifically I'm going to serve, and how I'm going to serve them. And then the mission is, why does this business even exist? What makes you different than everybody else who's out there? I am convinced now, and I'm not saying this in a braggy way. I'm just saying I have listened to a lot of business plans. I've listened to a lot of pastors. I've listened to a lot of ministry leaders tell me about their uniqueness and their unique difference. And I'm not saying any of that's not true. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who are like you, who sound like you, who may say some of the same things, but just different words. What I really would love to, what I think is important for you on the mission is to say, if this business, this organization, your coaching practice did not exist, what is going to happen? Like why would the world miss it? And this is why I ask you to get geographically focused, because it's harder sometimes to make it really broad to get to this place. But what happens what if your business didn't exist? Does it matter if you don't do it? And that's kind of how you should start thinking about mission. Does that help you guys a little bit? I'm going to take you to an example here that maybe might help you. So for the mock fake business that I created, I said that my mission is to remove the mental clutter and pass so you can achieve your dreams. And so my mission should be focused on helping people remove all of the things, the obstacles they're getting in the way. And my belief system based off of my coaching practice says it's actually the stuff that you've been thinking, the stories you've been telling yourself, the films you've been running in your head about yourself, about your failure, about your mistakes, about what you're not, who you're not, right? And if I took that to a Christian perspective and I say I'm a Christian mindset coach, I could say, well, it doesn't really matter about your okay, because it's the mind of Christ that you're tapping into. But I'm going to keep it non-ecumenical here and just say, my mission is to remove the mental clutter and the past, every experience that you had and the effect of that past and the meaning that you tied to that past. I'm going to remove that so you can achieve your dreams, because that's what's stopping you. Now, do you guys see how me making that my mission makes me really, really focus? That's like every time I get on a Facebook Live, every time I do a tweet, I post something, it's about that. I'm not all over the place. I'm not telling you one moment about, I'm not telling you one moment about how to have a better marriage. I'm not telling you one moment how to have how to have more more fun at work or whatever that stuff is. None of that. Everything I'm saying is leading you down a path so that you know I am part. I hear you. I feel you. I get you. And my mission is to make your pain go away. And I think your pain is tied to mental clutter, how you feel about yourself, what stories you've been telling yourself. What do you do in the morning? Do you have an exercise when you get up in the morning and you think about your day and think about all the gifts that you actually have and how you're going to use them? And how are you going to take your anxiety and your doubts and we're going to slay them? Everything's about that. Does that make sense, guys? So I'm going to stop and ask you guys to weigh in on that and see if you have any questions. Hello? Am I by myself?
I was trying to unmute for some reason it wouldn't let me. Okay, so I don't have questions so far. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying so far.
Uh-huh.
So you're saying that the mission example is to like zoom in on that particular area that you're alleviating or making your clients or prospective clients' life better. Is that what you're basically
Yes.
saying?
So really what I just did there is I really honed in on what my key customer needs are that I serve.
Okay, so it's like out of everything that you're offering, this is the main this is the main platter then.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
My main thing is I'm getting rid of clutter, mental clutter. It's all the crazy stuff in your head. You have a dusty brain, and I'm going to help you clean it up.
Okay, gotcha. This makes it a lot easier for me. In particular, with making the mission, this is the mission statement, right? Yeah, making the mission statement. Because like there are so many ways that the one thing that you're offering can help people, but I'm realizing now that telling them all of these different ways is not really appealing.
Well, it's hard to get your head. It's hard for them to get their head around.
Right. Yeah. So you have to. Okay. This makes a lot of sense.
So the first part of that sentence. So the first part of my sentence is my key customer need is to remove the clutter and the past. Right now, the second part is it's my promise to my customer. It's that they're going to achieve their dreams.
Okay. All right. It's very simple. Simple and straightforward too.
Right.
Yeah. All
now
right.
I could have made this better. Right. But to me, the reason I like this because I would use this. This would be on all my branding. Everything you saw that actually spoke about my company, that to me is more important than the name of my company.
The mission. So let me just get that again. The mission statement is more important than like the name.
Than my name. So like I said, my company's called Elite Mindset Coaching, right? Well, that doesn't really tell you anything. But other than mindset coaching, it says, okay, well, what is that? But when they go remove mental clutter so you can achieve your dreams, it's really clear about how I might be able to help you so you would want to dig in more.
Okay. So you one time you're just hitting the nail on the head one time because you're identifying your problem is mental clutter. I'm gonna deal with that live and direct. So like you
Yes,
just cut to the whole chase one time in the mission statement
there you go.
and say it in one sentence.
Yes.
Okay,
And
this is
think
awesome.
my ideal customer is someone who has mental clutter,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my goal and my benefit is the goal of working with me is that you're going to achieve your dreams. Now, I can even further say if you feel you're stuck, right? Removing the mental clutter and pass so you can get unstuck and achieve your dreams. That further ties me in to a specific audience. I could change this and say removing the mental clutter and pass um, so you can have more clarity and achieve your dreams.
Right. No, this is really good, Telvin. Thank you. It brings a lot of understanding to me now why I mean I've been spending some time studying these things, right? Like doing my
Mm-hmm.
own little research, and basically what you're highlighting here is like everything that I've found, you have just put it in terms that are very understandable.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So think about this, guy. This is something that's interesting, and very few people actually think about it this way, and it's something that I had to learn. Is that your mission statement is the thing that actually can catalyze your brand. I mean, it'll help you create a powerful brand.
Right, I'm following.
Right? Because that's my brand is, he's the mental clutter guy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Right? He's the mental clutter guy. I mean, that is what you want, right? Because there's a guy who's out there talking about, I'm your goal guy, I'm the goal achievement. Well, there are a lot of reasons why people aren't getting their goals. Some people just don't have the education, they don't have the knowledge, and have the information. Some people actually are smart and got a lot of education, but by the way, they got a lot of stuff in their past that they're telling themselves they can't do or be or all these other things. So again, this is not a space that I'm in. I don't. It's a part of what I do. It's a segment of what I do, but I don't actually spend. I don't brand this way because I'm not trying. Because this doesn't, and this is important. This doesn't translate B2B corporately. It only translates B2C, business to customer, not business to business.
Kind of lost me on that.
Say that one more time, Brian. Would you say?
I said you kind of lost me on that.
So my mission statement here would not translate to an individual consumer, everyday Mary Joe. I'm sorry. This particular mission statement would translate. She would get it. It would be marketable to an everyday Joe that I would actually just market to on Facebook. The average company, this message would not translate because mental clutter, they probably haven't bought into that yet. And the whole idea about achieving your dreams is not a benefit. They don't care if people achieve their dreams. They care if they get more revenue or if the employee stays, right? So what I'm saying is it's important to make sure that your mission statement, which what people will see as your brand, and you can use it as a brand, it's important for it to be very directive to the type of people you're talking to or the audience. And so in my own case, in my personal business, even though I do help people deal with mental clutter, I never market that because my buyer is a senior corporate executive, and they will think this is fluffy and mushy.
Gotcha.
Even though, speaking of need, most of them, the reason they got their problems and work, and drink all night is because of mental clutter and past issues that they haven't dealt with. But nobody's buying that, so I can't sell it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here so far is, number one, it is not sufficient to just say that you can achieve your dreams, because it does not, well, which leads me to number two, without identifying what the actual problem with,
Yes.
from a granular perspective, you don't have anybody's attention.
I have nobody's attention because they see achieve dreams everywhere.
Right.
Every car commercial is about achieving your dream. Every makeup commercial is about achieving your dreams, right?
So basically, if every car commercial, I'm just looking at this logically, right? If every car commercial and this achieve your dreams is all over the place, then your real marketing in your mission statement is actually emphasizing and elaborating on what the problem is.
Yes, and yeah, 100%. What I usually say, and I think I said this in the very beginning, it's your differentiator, like, because what is your distinction and how you solve the problem? Because everybody is out there saying they're solving the achieve your dream problem.
Let's see. So basically, all right. So
Please.
straight this out, right? So basically, with regards to, let's say, the International Institute of Pneumatology, basically what you're saying here in that context, that it is not sufficient to basically say or to actually identify that you can walk in the fullness of God or the fullness of power. What really is the marketing point is identifying and amplifying their present state.
Yes. So here's the thing. For me, I don't know if you remember this.
Right.
One of the questions that I kept saying to myself is, I am so shocked. What I don't understand, if this God thing is real, where's the power?
Right.
Because to me, to be going to church and doing all these things and fasting and praying and begging and snotting and all of this stuff, okay, and there is no power and I see no manifestation, then I have to say, then I'm starting to ask myself, am I just on a trip? Like, is this like a big hoax? Is this a big game?
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Right? So here's the deal. There's an audience that's out there who's saying, and they're mature, let me say it a different way. They're institutionalized Christians who are saying to themselves, I believe, but give me a reason to believe. And I think that, by the way, that's more godly than not. Because, I mean, like, I go, wait a minute, like, the disciples actually saw Jesus.
No, it is
So, right? I mean, so, like, okay, so, like, they had something to build their faith on, even though they still didn't have faith. So you mean to tell me you're going to have nothing and you believe? I go, this doesn't make any sense.
Scripture is scripture. It is strong. That point you made is strong scripture. So technically, what I am interpreting from everything that you're saying here is,
yes,
the reason that caused me to go down the road I went is the reason that I should be amplifying.
Absolutely.
What the heck?
Absolutely. Zane, when I explain to people why I how my life has changed, why, okay, who you are, who I've told all these people about you. I told the story of your story in the backyard. And I was like, that's a guy I need to listen to, because he actually had the gonads to actually do what most of us should do. And
Wow.
I believe God actually wants us to do this, because this fake thing that you're going around saying, I just believe, that doesn't make sense to me. And if you think, and if you're arrogant enough to think that your gift and understanding of biblical things is enough to actually move unbelievers, you're crazy. So you think you're better than Jesus and the disciples? It doesn't make any sense. Stop it.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay? So your story, that's it. It is because I can now get into you and say, oh yeah, he's just like me. Now guess what? There's some people who won't like you, and that's good. They're wasting your time anyway.
Right. You filter them.
You filter them.
Yeah.
So your story, 100%, because that is why you exist.
Exactly. It makes sense.
Now I'm curious about that story.
What? Telvin, you don't even know what you just did here, you know? Like, because I have been racking up my brain trying to figure out how do I actually get this. I mean, everybody, when I say get this, everybody knows, and I've been looking at it from the wrong perspective. If in the context that everything here is what we just mentioned, I have actually been looking at what I desired in the story instead of actually focusing on, or let me just say that a different way. I've been looking at acquiring what I desired as the seller instead of focusing on why I even started the entire process. That makes sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Yes.
Because everything that we do is actually bringing everybody into mechanical power. And I've been focusing on that, which is what I desired in the time of my story. But that is not what people really want, because you have many people outside there, based on what we're discussing here, you have many people outside there that are actually making the same claim. So it is not differentiating. Well, what really differentiates everything that is going on and is why, what were the reasons and why the entire process was started.
You the why, and then what you did, you sacrificed everything, and you took 3 years of your time and sacrificed your whole life to do the research, and now I can get it in a fraction of the time it took you 3 years to go and study.
Right.
That's the story. I mean, that. And so to take me from a place, right, really, I mean, for me, there's two, and you have to come with your own words, but the reason I listen, there are two people I listen to religiously, you and Carrie Blake. Why Carrie Blake? You guys are kind of like, you're both militant.
Right.
You're both militant, right? And you guys both believe in the things of God are mechanical. It ain't maybe mystery, woo woo. He might do it. No, because that resonates with me. I don't believe that. Like, I just don't believe God is this big mystery. I believe we don't know the mechanics and how it works, because if God's just not around doing all these things you're saying do, You need to get in with the system. It already exists. It can't be. Like this can't be he's deciding. And to me, that's where you got me. When you told me your story, I was like, wait a minute. He put everything online to find the truth. I trust this guy.
Right.
No, I'm saying really. Because and I think people would believe that. Now, I grew up in the church, and I literally, I don't say this, but I mean, I run with a lot of pastors. I mean, a lot of them are my friends. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people I just go, I know they don't know. They still trying to figure it out. You ask them about a scripture, and they'd be like, I don't know nothing about that.
Okay, seriously, funny here, way.
So for me, I'm like, okay, he put it down like this. He's somebody I need to pay attention to. Now, there are a whole lot of other people that I like listening to, and I'll jump on their things, but in my head, I go, I only have so much time, and it's noisy, right? The marketplace in this space is so noisy, and I think Christian ministry people don't realize this, right? Because you have a special relationship with God, but the truth is, it's so noisy. Everybody's out there telling you, right, that they have an answer. They got the ticket. They have the solution. So, and they might have it, but they have it for you. And Brian has it for him. And Mary has it for her.
Right. So in this context, then, if the reason for the path is what is solely amplified, then transparency is a necessity.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability, right? Yes, vulnerability.
Vulnerability is what will connect them.
Oh yes. Amen to this. Thank you.
Wait, Telvin, I just want to say what you guys are discussing here is like, my brain is having so many shockwaves at the same time. Because I was going through so much of information trying to find these answers, like going through the art of storytelling, and there are courses that even Khan's Academy offering on storytelling and how to connect with your customers and all these things. And you're saying here in one sentence, it's the vulnerability that actually connects, and the reason that you started, like your drive behind everything that connects you to your particular audience, right?
Yes. Here, without vulnerability, I mean, let's back up. Every buying decision is made emotionally, not logically.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
So people are pretty much buying into what they perceive to be sincerity.
Absolutely. And so my emotion, and so if you, so using Zane, using your story specifically, when you said, I gave up everything, what you gave up everything to go find the answer. You said something that I personally would want to do, but could not figure out how to do, and was like, I'd be afraid to. So you hit all the emotional buttons.
It's not so. Okay. All right.
I'm for real. I want to hear the story.
And so everybody that I've told the story, they were like, "Oh, I see why you listen to him."
I was literally blindsided,
Oh wow.
I was literally blindsided because I was actually more focused on the fact that I acquired what I set out for, and I thought that what people would actually desire. and I was blindsided in that area.
It makes sense.
Is it
It makes
funny?
sense. Because people, one of my ministry friends, again, he's a name. So he was like, is this guy a big name? And I go, no, let me tell you the story. Why? I listen to him and he's like, I get it.
No idea.
That's something that also one of the reasons why I was motivated to go through the DHT with Curry Blake, as you mentioned too, is because of his story as well. Thinking about
Yes.
it.
Right.
And his experience.
When Carrie Blake, you're right, because when Carrie Blake said, my daughter died and I tried to get answers, right? Get anybody to give me answers. And then he said, and then he gave a practical example how when his next daughter died and fell out the window and she was on the ground and then he brought her in the house and she was dead and he put her up against the wall and he actually stuck there and commanded life back into her for 45 minutes. I was like, that's a guy I listen to. Because here's the deal. He actually has really been through it. And I see that really what he's doing is he has studied this so hard. He's made a mission. I'm going to pay the devil back.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not saying that, but at the end of the day, that's really what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that dude I'll pay attention to.
Seriously.
Yeah, so
Even when I think about it, that is why I listen to Curry Blake, because of that story, because of the fact that he had the experience, had an experience, and determined that he is going to find what is missing and come back like a commando. Yeah.
Right? That's exactly what he's done. He is not playing with this.
And you want to hear something too? When you started this course, your story sold me as well. When you mentioned that you have over 25 years of experience, I'm like, listen, that's the man to listen to right here. Because when I calculate, if it takes me 25 years for you to share your wisdom in 25 years, it means that by the time I get this thing, I'm going to be hitting my 50s. I'm like, no, I don't really want to go through that. I see what you're saying.
No, because at the end of the day, right, it goes back to something I said earlier. Whether you're in ministry or if you're in business, your goal is to get people from A to B faster than they could get there by themselves. And if you're not focused that way, they will move on to other places. I mean, it's like I'm shocked. Like if you can look at a pastor and say, why are you losing people? I'm telling you, you are no longer speaking to the people who listen to you, who are bought into your story, or they don't know your story, and they do not believe you're going to get them from A to B. They might say they're not getting fed and all this other stuff. I'm telling you, it's because it's like this. And T.D. Jakes taught about this in a minister and leadership conference. He said, if you are doing a coat ministry and that's what you are all about, and you stop coat ministry and you switch over to actually a ministry of teaching people how to make money so that they can buy coats, all the giving coat people will go somewhere else where they're still doing coat ministry. Because that's why they came. That's what's in their heart. That's what they need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect sense.
And so when I heard that, I was like, yes, that explains my whole life working and being in churches. Like, where do these people go? It's like, wait a minute, he called it their pet thing. But that really is what it is, right? And so it is this same kind of thing. And I know, like for me, when I do a coaching program, I tell you it's going to be X amount of weeks, and I'm going to tell you this is the roadmap of how I'm going to get you from A to B. Now, I'm going to tell you that you're probably going to tell me, I'm going to learn some things about you in between A to B. And there are going to be some things that are going to come up that are going to derail us off of this plan. But our goal is to get through all of this. I don't want to make it as rigid as the roadmap, but I am working on a roadmap because this is how I know I can get you here.
So I'm gathering from what you're saying that the next important point is that when we are communicating our mission statement, or well, after we've communicated the mission statement, that we should identify specifics with a time frame, because people are interested in a now or something that is very
because it's all back to
attainable.
give me the A to B.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Right. So if I was doing this mental clutter coaching thing, I'd clarify what your dream is, and I make that more granular, because still it's kind of big, because you probably got 10 dreams. And let's narrow down the dreams that are realistic that you and I can work on, and let's figure out what that looks like, and then that way I know what you want to, your goal is. Now I can back into what plan I'm going to build for you specifically, right? What things that I can give you that are automated so that I don't have to be involved in your coaching, right? Or if I'm consulting, that I have to be involved in consulting with you, right? And then my last part is, okay, what's the timeline so that both you and I know that we've arrived? Because you're going to pay me as a coach, and you're going to refer me based off of something that is not only qualitative but quantifiable.
So, question here on the coaching aspect. Would the story behind the coach also impact the connectivity of the coach to the clients?
Yes.
So the coach should actually also be vulnerable.
The coach needs to be vulnerable.
Right.
And I say vulnerable in your story. So your story in your Facebook lives or your YouTube, right? Tell your story. Brian, by the way, dude, you got one too. Like, all of us got one. Brian, you got a story. Tell that story, because there are here's the deal. There are 1,000 people out there who actually have the same problem you have or had, and they want to know how to get it. There's not 10,000 maybe, but there's 1,000. And that 1,000 right now is worth $5,000 minimum to you. Over a year to 2 year period of time. Guarantee it.
Yeah, for sure.
It is like not even a question in my mind. But if the messaging isn't clear, then, and not direct, and the vulnerability of telling that story so that everybody gets to know, this is the guy, Zane, who had this thing, this question, and he answered it, and he spent 3 years learning it, and now he's going to teach me how to get to this level in 6 months.
Right. So following up the story does not work. Basically, it's in the story does not work on it by itself, but you tell the story, and then the follow-up to the story should be what it took me this length of time. I will do this
Yes.
within a much shorter period of time for you.
Well, you've like, think about it. You've figured all the mistakes out. You've figured out what works, doesn't work, like where you went down dead end, where you had to learn lessons. Like you can say that I'm taking out all the bad lessons learned so you don't have to follow them. I'm gonna give you the answers. You get all the answers to the test.
Makes sense.
And I think you can do that as I'm a firm believer, and it seems like most of the people here are kind of focused on the whole coaching service, and I think ministry is coaching, by the way. But what I think that there's the opportunity here is that the right thing today in this model is to make half of this automated, meaning it's stuff that they do on their own, right? They read something, they do stuff, they do homework, and then the other half is that they talk to you, because I think in order to scale this, you can't do what I did. I built my business, which is a mistake, and I'm trying to work myself out of it right now. I built my business on it's all about Telvin. So you get me. And if I bring in someone to help on a particular area, it's for a couple of weeks and then you move on. That person moves on. But literally, I have to get on the phone with these people every week.
And that undoubtedly could be exhausting.
It's karate crazy, okay? Okay. It's just a bad answer. And I have locked myself into these people. So, right? And so they are addicted to me, and I have become, in some cases, I'm no longer their coach, I'm their business advisor. But to be their business advisor weekly is a problem. Is not what I bought myself, what I tried to buy into. And why, I'm only going to share math with you guys to give you context of how, and listen, people told me this in the beginning and I did not listen because I thought I was smarter than everyone else. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah, bring it on.
I went out and said to people, I will coach you for 6 months to a year on average. I said, I'm going to charge $3,000 a month. And people said, my first guy said, are you sure that's not enough? And I'm like, really? And then I started to do these things where I would sign up people for $18,000 for 6 months. Well, here's the problem with that. I'm literally on the phone with them all the time. I could be on the phone with them. A coaching session can be 2 hours, 3 hours, and then there's homework and projects and stuff that I got to do on that. And then there's projects you got to do to prepare. It's mathematically impossible, right? I don't get to spend any time actually going to get new customers. Very few and I'm worn out. I'm just worn out from these 4 or 5 conversations a week. And at the end of the day, I don't have a business. I actually have a job. It is a job. It is not a business. And so what I'm trying to do now is transition. So I'm telling you about my mistakes, right? I'm trying to transition, and I've talked to people about this, is to go, I'm going to sacrifice getting $3,000 clients to get clients who might pay me $50 to $100 a month, but it's all going to be online. So whatever I've been teaching those people, I'm going to make it all digital and have you go online and get the information, see me visually talk about it, and then maybe I check in with you 2 or 3 times a year. Or if you want to talk to me, there's an hourly rate. But the better answer for me is to sell that to 2,000 people, and just versus me trying to sell it to 20 people a year. Because it's not a business. It's a job. I work for Telvin Jeffries as an employee. Because the only way you have a business is if you can step out of it and it runs without you.
In other words, it has to be self-existent.
It has to be self-existent.
You took those words off my mind.
And it's not. My business is not self-existent. And by the way, I have other coaches working for me who I give them work. It's because my clients actually will give me somebody that I don't think I'm the right fit for. And so I won't take the work and I give it to someone else. And I do a split off of it. And I take 40% of the money and give them 60% of the fee because I brought the business in. And generally I go hire junior coaches to do the work. So I'm arbitraging coaching because most coaches don't know how to market and they're not willing to sell. And they may not have the credibility to get in. But at the end of the day, I still don't really have a business because I'm managing them too. And it is not what you guys said, self-existent. So I only share that with you guys to say, you got to start where you start. But at the same time, don't do what I did, because you can actually do well and wind up at a window that's the wrong window, and it's a really high climb. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I have a question here though. Taking into consideration the lessons learned on your side,
Yes.
at what, based on your professional opinion, at what point do we, we automate the entire thing where persons could actually go to a particular online location and receive this information? And at what point in that process do you think it is, do you think that person should have direct contact with you? And
I personally now believe that to start off one-on-one coaching with people is a mistake for most coaching disciplines. To start them off with a online course and then vet them, meaning they're serious and they do the homework and they see that they get something so that you have something to coach,
right,
is better than what I started doing. Does that make sense?
Word.
it does. So, you all hear me?
Yes.
So basically what you're saying is you're transitioning from one-on-one coaching. You create a automated structure, and basically what you're doing is not, because the automated structure is really what is doing the coaching in itself. What you're basically doing now is just advising persons who have been educated.
Yes. And I didn't make up this statement, but a friend of mine said this to me, said a lot of people are hiring coaches when they have nothing to coach, and that's why the outcome isn't good. And he was talking about it in the context of people who will say, I'm going to hire a business coach, when they have no sales
Right.
or they have meager sales. Really, you don't need a coach. You don't need a business coach for that, right? You need a business coach to scale. You need a business coach to optimize. You need a business coach to tell you to do what I'm telling myself to do, right? Which, by the way, I told everybody else to do, and I just never did it,
Right, right.
right?
At that point in time, they really need an advisor.
Yes, yes. And there's money to be made. So, and you can charge more for advice than you can charge for coaching to be an advisor.
That's
Yes. Because you're adding strategic value, not tactical value.
so in this case, what will qualify you to function in the capacity of an advisor?
You know them or their business well enough that you can actually start to talk about strategy and apply it directly to the things that they're dealing with, not generalized information about how to do something.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So, when I first begin with someone, I'm really feeling them out. I'm really trying to figure out what their problems are. I am probably in most cases listening. I'm actually helping them get to the truth about what's really going on. I'm going to share an example with you guys that'll give you an example. So I just got hired by a company to work with someone who was with the company for 20 years. And by the way, believe it or not, she's and her family's from the Caribbean. They have the same hyphenated part of the same last name as yours, Zane.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. She's been at the company for 20 years, and she was supposed to be named to the top job and not the lieutenant. And she'd been told that she was going to get it for about a year. And so they didn't give it to her because they thought there were some things that she needed to work on. But they were like, we really like her, and she's really angry and mad, and we need her to get her attitude right and start acting like the executive she wants to become. And so we put a plan together. So I said, look, I'll do this, but before I work with you, I have to know what you really want. Like, do you want to stay here? Do you want to go? What do you want to be after this? Like 5 years down the road, once you're not pissed off anymore, what do you really want to be? And she told me, and I said, well, what you're learning how to do here, no other minority woman in the US is learning how to do. So if you want to, you can be emotional about this and be angry, and you got every right to be. But first you need to be angry with yourself, because this is not about them not giving you the job. This is you're mad because you didn't get the job and you overcommitted to this company and you think you did a bunch of stuff and they owe it to you. But they made a business decision and you made a personal decision. I didn't really know that was the fact, but I threw it as a hypothesis because I needed to get her to center so I could learn her and learn what she's about and what's important and how she's thinking and what's her values. Because I could do all the assessment and testing and all the other stuff, but until I really know who she is and what she really wants and what's really wrong, I can then figure out how to help her. So now we're really working on personal boundaries, professional boundaries, right? How to get organized so you can actually have a personal life and still be competent and seen as competent. But as I do that, I'm now learning her job and what she's supposed to be doing and how the function works. And now I'm starting to get an understanding how I can be an advisor to her, but I'm not going to go there yet. What I'm doing is now, let me show you some fundamentals of a healthy executive. And that information can be put online. It could be a course.
That makes real sense. And basically, what they're doing there with regards to making a healthy executive, they're just cutting out all her codependency.
Yes.
She's bringing her into self-existence.
Yes. Because none of this stuff that happened is really about them. It's about you.
Yeah. That's why you're angry.
Yes, because that's who. And you're real. And by the way, she agreed. When we got it, no, you're angry with you. You're not angry with them. But I'm telling you, you gotta let them know that you ain't angry at them anymore, or you ain't gonna be here. Because it's about you. But that part, I need to do that as my first proving point and credibility with her. Because when I get her credibility and them saying great things about her, she's not going to let me go. And then I'm going to have credibility with her boss and other people. And by the way, it's the same thing I did with another executive there, and that's how I got her.
Okay.
Because she was in the same exact situation. And what's so interesting is your whole thing, and I never thought about it like this, Zane, is that both of them, the reason they didn't get it was codependency, and the reason they were angry was codependent thinking.
Yeah, it's usually the case.
Never thought about it like that.
So basically what you're saying that the transition from coach to advisor is where you're training them in self-existence, and because training them in self-existence requires a certain level of vulnerability, you now pretty much intimately involved in the business.
Yes, because think about it this way, and I hope this is the best way to explain it. What I'm teaching is information that everyone can do. And when I say everyone, any other person who's done what I did for the last 10, 15 years. It's just information. How to apply it is where the money should be.
It makes sense.
Right? So the deal is I can get more money for the application than I can get for the information.
Okay, so to sum that up, basically what we're looking at is automate the general information, and they should only have contact with you when they want an advisor.
Yes. So if you think of a guy like Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins has basically mass produced all these programs. But you basically are going to either be done by a very be delivered by a very low level coach for small amounts of money, or a program for a small amount of money. And the only people who get to him are people who've been through all of the coaching, and they've made enough money that they can afford to have him as an advisor and also get the access to the other people like them.
Oh, that makes sense now, because I was studying him for some time, and trying to figure out, what are the secrets behind what he's doing. And now that it makes sense.
Make real sense.
Yeah.
And if you think about his real core, and his best book ever is Awaken the Giant Within, And that book is all about self-existence.
The same thing we're saying here, boy.
I'm sorry?
No, I said the same thing. It's interesting that he even actually put it like that, because that's, remember when we were having a discussion even concerning the master mentorship is actually that, it's bringing people into self-existence. And so he's actually taken that, he's made the entire system self-existent,
Yes. Yes.
and he is now just there as the advisor in your self-existence.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to get time with Tony, I think it's, probably $100,000.
Whoa. Okay, so you have to demonstrate the fruit of your self-existence.
You have to, yes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's not anybody can see him. So another guy that to pay attention to, guys out there, is Brendan Burchard.
That's Burchard as in Berchard.
Uh-huh.
All right.
And Brendan, I started with Brendan when he was nobody. I mean, literally nobody. And Brendan would run programs for, like, he'd run programs where it'd be like a 3-day high performance coaching habit program for $997, right? And in order to get time with him, he would have a high level program. I forgot what it called it, but it may be a weekend with him or a dream trip with it. I think it was, they did for like a week where but that program was like $20,000. So he bought you in on something for like 10 or 12 bucks, I think, maybe, then took you to something that's like $397, and then he took you to something that's $1,000, and then he took you to something that was like $20,000. And I may have the math all wrong, but it's roughly that kind of program, right? Now to get time with him one-on-one is way more than $20,000. But again, Brendan's very focused. His message is all about how to have high performance, not peak performance. And the difference is, the differentiator, because there's a whole lot of people talking about high performance and performance and performance, but Brendan's method is, here are the 6 habits that, after doing research, all the long lasting 10-year, 20-year, 30-year top 5% of the world, these are the 6 habits that are common. His message is, how do you have high performance all the time and not have the peak and valleys, no troughs? And everything he does is about that. And he has done another added to that model, which makes sense, is he's got other people to coach the programs for him, right? And you pay. And I'm a certified high performance coach, and I paid him to be certified. Now I've gotten smart, and I no longer pay him for that, because I think to build a brand off of Brendan is a mistake, because it doesn't make sense, right? Then just go to buy something from Brendan, just buy his book. I need to teach you those principles within Telvin's program. And so my story is, I'm the guy who at 34 got into an executive vice president role and had no idea what to do. I'm the guy who the first time I wanted to be an executive vice president, I was turned down and told I needed to wait. And the person they gave it to actually was somebody who I didn't think should have gotten it. And And I was angry at them because I personally worked from 7 to 10 o'clock at night and worked 6 days a week. And I gave my life to them, and then look how they turned around. But they made a business decision, not a personal decision. And I was making personal decisions. And because I actually overcommitted, I got angry with them, and they did nothing wrong. And so those are my two stories that I tell that I know I can convert.
Right. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense then.
So hopefully I answered, gave you guys some stuff to work with now with both vision and mission, and then I'll schedule another time to do the hard work, which is to come up with some strategies, and then some objectives, and then the plan. And the way I look at that, just to keep in your mind, because you'll see those sheets you can actually that I gave you, it's how, and how. When you think about those three things, right? The strategy, the objective, and the plan, it's really how, and how. How am I going to do the vision? How, and how. But we break it down into three different categories. Any other questions for me tonight?
So you're gonna get us this recording, you said?
Absolutely.
That's gonna be before you do the next session.
Oh yeah, what I'll do right now, I'll do as soon as I hang up. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes for them to send it to me in an email, Brian, and then I'll just actually add it to I'll put it the file in your Facebook Messenger.
Awesome, thank you.
Also, Telvin, is it okay if I invite someone else to the group?
Absolutely, please, yeah, as many as you want.
Right, and the persons that come in will be able to review this also.
Yeah, certainly. Right now. So, guys, you know what? I haven't taught this on a group for a very long time, and so I am doing it. I said to myself, I'm going to offer this to free for a couple of sessions, and then ask people for their testimonials, and I'm going to use this to market later. But I figured I needed to get it out of me, and so that before I actually start to monetize it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly.
And that's a strategy, by the way, as well, guys. That I think is very helpful for people is to I want to be sure that because I want to clean it up and get it real tight, and then I'm going to do this and record it, and you can sign up, and I'm never going to be on this call. I'm not going to say it once I get it perfected. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go and get it on Webinar Jam and just have it rerun, and you sign up whenever you want.
Makes sense.
Do that.
Does that make sense? Because then it's easier. I get the automation, but I feel like you kind of got to get it out of you first before you actually go sell it to somebody.
That makes sense.
Because you don't, yeah, because you can know the information, but your delivery is a different thing, and also it's a seed you have and the information you have. I was certified in this program 5 years ago, and I've used it with a couple of people of my customers, but again, this is the very first time in a very long time that I've actually, first time I've ever done it to a group, but it's the first time, that I've okay, I'm gonna get serious about using this. And Zane, you obviously know why. And Kelly K.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have this on this tool, that I have this tool, that sheet, I have it in a digital version that you can use. and you can update it regularly, and you can cascade it to other people who are working with you. So what you missed, Zane, and I think Brian, you heard this, and Taz, if you're still on, it could definitely help you in your organization. You could take this one-page business plan and cascade the goals. So, let's say Zane, you have this big vision for you and Kelly have the big vision for the organization. You take that plan, and then you could say all the other people who are helping you, they get a copy of the plan. And then you say, if you're responsible for this section of the organization, do your own plan for that. Because if you don't have a vision, I'm not sure like how this is really going to work long term, right? And it just gets them buy-in, and they know why they're doing what they're doing. And I think it goes back to that whole write the vision, make it plain so that the reader can run.
Exactly. It's very interesting that we even spoke about these things here tonight, because I've been doing a lot of brainstorming on that, and even with regards to automating the teachings that I do, I've been giving heavy thought into it. So all of this actually is very helpful, and also helps me put into perspective the things that I was really battling with. And also even the whole coaching area, it has not only given me an idea as to the potential that the coaching has, because speaking with somebody like yourself who's been doing it, and actually hearing from you also the mistakes that were made, is very helpful in actually giving some orientation.
Yeah, and here's the thing, the difference between, and things are moving very rapidly, the difference between when I started doing this in 2014 and where we are today is there are far more coaches, and there's far more noise out here, and then the way that people are actually utilizing coaching and utilizing the service is different, right? And so so it's also, you're at a time where you have the permission to actually provide this in an automated format where people weren't used to getting it that way and didn't want it that way. They wanted to talk to a coach. And that's partly because coaches were actually doing more counseling than coaching. And now that we've all kind of figured out what coaching really is, we've all stayed far away from the whole counseling aspect.
Right. So what has taken place is the lines have been identified.
Yes.
That kind of gives us the opportunity now to exploit that.
Yes.
Right.
Because I always ask people, what are you expecting to get out of this coaching? And then if you hire me, what are you expecting to get? And if I feel like, hey, there you go. I feel like if you start telling me about a lot of personal issues, I can, I'm going to give you one session. We're going to talk about that. And then after that, I'm not your person. You need to go see somebody on the couch. Because we're not going to get anywhere, right? I'm not qualified to do that. And I'm going to tell you probably that issue ain't that big of a deal. But I could be wrong, and I don't know that. So the truth is, I'm not in that place. I'm not someone who can help you there. So I'm not going to do that. And I've said to clients before that I'm not right for this person. We're gonna need to do something different because that's a couch job, and I'm not the guy. I don't know how to do that. And so that and people respect you for that too, because you end up saying this is just you really need to go see somebody about that. All right, guys. Well, I'm closing. Anything else? Let me see. I see some note from Taz.
I just wanted to say I have no questions, but
Okay.
I just wanted to express how appreciative I am for what you're doing and what you have shared here with us tonight. This definitely has given more direction. I mean, the first session that you hosted that we did with on the business pneumatology was already an eye opener, and now this actually is adding to the homework that I have to do.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Which I would like actually start on or continue working on it tonight, because it's really really helpful, and it comes in no better timing because as well, I don't know if I shared this before, but I was at a place where I was looking for some direction, and I said a prayer, and I asked Father, I said, I'm making certain decisions and I need like straight answers. And
Right.
literally like a week after that, um I had a dream, and then after that, here comes Telvin. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I needed. And I just want to say that this is not going unnoticed. It's definitely staying in my books. And what you're sharing here is gold. It's very, very valuable.
Thank you. And I would say to everybody, take massive, Tony Robbins saying, not mine. Tony Robbins is, once you get it, take massive action immediately. There's nothing like now momentum.
Definitely.
Take massive action now. And by the way, Taz, I saw your note. There's difference in processing and coaching. Yes, because sometimes with the counseling conversation, right, you're unraveling layers, and what you end up is trying to help people process their feelings, and that is a specialty. That is not something for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And also, there's another part to be selfish and coaching, and something I warn everybody about is it's kind of like ministry, and that you are pulling they are pulling on your spirit with that stuff, and it is emotionally draining. You're like, why do I feel like I've been in a boxing match? And I have realized that I cannot go there unless I'm prepared to go there, because it is like I have been in a battle sometimes, and I'm like, what is all I did is talk for 2 hours. Secondary trauma, is that what it's called? Because that's your space. Can you unmute?
Yes, sir.
All right, so secondary trauma, is that what it's called when you have that, when you're talking to them?
It is. Is anytime you meet someone in a journey where it's dealing with emotion, whether it's dealing with hardship, and you expose yourself to that level of vulnerability, even in the space of just trying to be empathetic and not so much sympathetic, um, either directly or even indirectly, it can still kind of tap into the emotions of yourself, and it drains. It's called vicarious trauma or secondary trauma, is when someone else is draining your battery. So even though you're trying to be in a very professional business headspace,
Right.
someone take you on this journey of processing through all their personal feelings, all their personal moments, what happened with them in their childhood. Now you're walking on that path with them, and you feel that weight. Yes.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it's so funny. I had that happen to me recently, and I was like, I have this rule. I'm only gonna go down this time one time. You need to get it all out. And I didn't say it like that, but that's what I meant. We need to get it all out right now, because I'm not doing this again. I know I can't take it.
I think a great example that you used was with the executive that you're working with
Uh-huh.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
and how you had to have that real conversation. Like, no, this is you. And when
Right.
you have that buy-in, the reason why you have that buy-in, because it ties to all those secondary emotions of feeling not worth it, feeling vulnerable. And then that's how it leads into that space. Because to identify that you're the challenge, you're the issue, you're the barrier,
Right.
that means you're highlighting someone lack, you're highlighting someone insufficiencies that is really hard for people to identify. That's why so many people can't grow from it, because they're afraid to face it.
Right. So awesome. Taz, thank you very much. That's awesome. You know what? I didn't know that. I just knew that I was like, I'm not qualified for this, so I'm gonna stop these people from doing this to me. And number two, I know how horrible I feel afterwards.
Right.
And one, because I'm an empathetic person, so I'm like, this is not why you hired me. I cannot take on your crazy. I can't do this right. Like I gotta be focused. And and I just was like, I don't like this feeling. I do not like this beat up. So yeah, please weigh in, Mr. Zane, sir.
Yeah, I mean, like what you all mentioned, um, what you are speaking about, I also have had a lot of experience with it. Within my circles, what tends to happen is a lot of people, and it actually became even more evident when I actually stepped into pneumatology.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people actually, before I actually had an online presence in any form of fashion, because of how people viewed, they usually look at the person that seems to have the knowledge as the go-to.
Right. The guru.
Yeah. Right? And so people would, it had been a norm for years, from my early 20s all into my 30s, the person would actually find me and come and bring these problems. Exactly, there's an issue, but to deal with the issue, just as Mr. Burnett is saying, and you're saying, Telvin, to deal with the issue, they tend to put their processing first. And it took me a while to actually learn that, and even more so in rheumatology, because understanding the energetics actually
Ah.
is where it became clear that, like, it's one thing to actually assist, but when they draw you in to their emotional quandary, you're no longer stewarding the situation, you are in the situation. So it's kind of like, and I had to learn that by experience, because just as you were saying, I didn't even know you had a term for that. So then they actually give some context. But it was extremely draining every time. And I kind of had to get to the point of, for some people, it felt as though I was getting insensitive or blunt. But it really got to the point, especially once I learned the spirit and the energetics of the spirit and how it functioned, to ensure that the function remains. You, just as Telvin, as you rightly put it, you're actually on the tree and you're watching the panorama.
Right.
And that you do not move from bird's eye view to ground view.
Right.
Anytime you shift there,
That's good.
then they actually tend to draw you into their reasoning, which is not working for them in the first place.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So it exactly.
The lines
Exactly.
are on the ground. That's
Yeah.
good.
You understand? And when I actually stepped into pneumatology, then persons now, it moved from persons seeking me out in my personal, in the locale, to people searching me out online. And when they actually present the information, they really don't want the results or what to do to change the situation. They want somebody to cry on. That they don't want change.
Right.
They want empathy. And I even had to actually make the differentiation um, between the difference between, as I understand it, and I don't know if Mr. Bennett here would actually agree with the perspective here, but I understand that there's a difference between sympathy and compassion. And sympathy is you're actually sorry, but compassion is I'm sorry for what they're experiencing, and this is what we're going to do to change it.
Yes.
Just like Jesus, he was compassionate, he wasn't sympathetic.
Right. Right.
And I had to make sure that I actually kept that and understand that if I am dealing with you out of compassion, I understand the situation and this is what you're doing. And if you don't want to accept that, then sit down and wallow in this circle by yourself until you realize that what you're doing is detrimental to you, your health, and your relationship.
Right.
It had to reach the point of being blunt. And even within my familial circle, I am viewed as that, black and white and blunt. And I realize even Jesus did the same thing.
Right.
He was, this is where you're standing, left or right. If you don't want to, relax. You will get back to me when you want to. If that makes sense.
Yes. Definitely. And I think I'm glad you used the word the energetics of the spirit, because that is exactly what I realized. I was like, man, this feels like when I preached, right? Like it shouldn't feel like this. Like you can tell, you can feel the people drawing you.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, but why is this feeling like this in a coaching session? I gotta change something.
Yeah, and you literally come out feeling as though you're on the track, Running
Yes.
for some time, you're exhausted.
Yes.
Yeah, so I totally relate it, and especially when I stepped into the energetics of the spirit, the pneumatology, then understanding the mechanics of the energetics actually helped me to even put a formality to it, so that you're not using me as your energy source, because that's what they're doing. They draw you on the ground, and you are now in the zone and the realm of their emotional quandary or their cries, and then and they make you the reference point. They make you the energy source. So your desire to help them has actually allowed you to be drawn into the circle, and you're no longer functioning self-existently. You're actually laboring to get them through what they're going through their reasoning. Madness.
Madness. I had a boss
Exactly.
who used to tell me that you should, when a person, and I do remember this when I was leading people in corporate America, my boss told me one time, never allow people to leave you their monkey. And,
I
he
like
said,
it.
he said, if they walk in and tell you a problem, you always ask them what they think they should do about it. And you can coach them through the answer, but never tell them the answer, because what most people will do is they'll come tell you the problem and walk away and leave it for you to deal with it. And he said, now they don't have a problem if you now have it.
Yeah.
So you have now taken the monkey, and what you realize is that you have a bunch of monkeys from all the people that you let come in and drop stuff, and you got monkeys all in your head, jumping all around the room, the office. And that made sense, but I didn't connect it in this context, because when you just said what you said, I went, yeah, this is what it is. It's like the answer is this, not and you have to choose all of the stuff that goes on with it, it's not something I can deal with. Quite honestly, I'm not sure that you can deal with it, but other than make a decision.
Yeah, because basically what has taken place is that they're in self-pity.
Yes.
They don't want answers to the self-pity because self-pity does not search for answers. Self-pity wants to be glorified in the emotional state.
Wow.
And from the time you are drawn into that, they are actually now, you think you're laboring. And this is where you step into a delusion, because you think that you're laboring to help them see your point, but really, because you step into their territory, they are laying it heavy on you for you to see it through their perspective. So
Yeah.
both parties giving energy and nothing is going on.
And what's interesting for me is once I have a belief system about it, because I work from a place of discernment,
Right.
it's really hard for you to get me off of that. So what I will do is spend my time trying to convince you, but you're not ready for it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I refer to Jesus here, because a lot of people, in Jesus' case, sick. And most people, when they are in that, they want this, they want to give you their burden of what they're going through, so that you can start to relate to what they're going through, and Jesus not there for that. It's either you want the sickness gone or not. If you want to be healed, step in the line. If you don't want,
Right. What do you
relax in
want?
the corner. Yeah, and find those who want to wallow and have the self-pity party. That's how I put it. The self-pity party.
That makes so much sense. And I hadn't I'm glad you gave it that way. And by the way, Taz, sympathy never sparks action, but only validates their reasons to stay stuck.
Exactly right. True.
Hey, Taz, do me a favor. Jump on one more time if you can. I'd love for you to tell these guys. You should know these guys, but tell them what you do.
So I am the general manager of a nonprofit named Ranch Hand Rescue, where we rescue abused and neglected animals from very severe backgrounds, and we incorporate them on a therapeutic component to offer healing and help to individuals who have been battered and bruised. So we work with a lot of young children who have been victims of sexual abuse. We work with a lot of veterans who deals with extreme PTSD, as well as women who have been in very extreme domestic violence situations. And what we found out is that there's a lot of study and there's a lot of practices on what is called equine therapy, where you take what is classified as a healthy animal and you incorporate that as a therapeutic component for someone that's hurting. But we've learned that if you take a hurting animal and you pair with a hurting individual, that something magical happens, because now they're in an environment with someone who exactly understands what they're going through, even though they don't speak the same language and they're not the same breed. They're able to connect on a deeper level, which allows the healing to take place on a deeper level and be more self-sustaining, because we found out that people will tell animals things that they would never tell people in their life. And that's what I do. I guess I put everybody to sleep.
Oh, that's awesome. Is your name? I hear Telvin actually calling it Taz, but I'm saying Israel Bennett as a nickname. But that's awesome that you share that. That's awesome. It's really awesome to learn more too.
Yeah, and our new initiative that we're launching this year that I will be heading up is we actually opening the first safe house for male victims of human trafficking. Human trafficking is an epidemic that's going on right now.
Right.
And traditionally, it's mostly highlighted on the female side of victims. But we know that males are victims too. which come with a whole different kind of challenges and barriers to address, but it's needed because it's still kind of like the unspoken um, redhead stepchild that's in the room. Is that young boys and young men can
So
be
yeah, because how can a man say? How can a man say he's been a young man says he's been sexually trafficked? Right.
right,
That makes a good
right,
point. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
When you told me about that last week, I was like, I was like, that's good because I think that's something. Yeah, I mean, there's probably there's probably not a lot of places you can go.
right. Because the truth of the matter is that anyone that is vulnerable can be a victim. It don't matter what race, it don't matter what gender. Anyone that's in a vulnerable state can become a victim.
That makes
Wow.
sense.
Well, thank you guys. You guys have a good night. I'm glad that I helped, and I'll get a date real quickly for the third part 3, and
Yep.
and Taz, I'll send you a copy of the worksheet.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right. Hey guys, have a good night.
Awesome. Blessings.
All right. Bye bye.